Composing gloves here, and today we are going to be reviewing Atlas 2. It is an AI-based browsing solution to samples. So you have all these sample packs, you give it to Atlas, and it takes it, uses AI to sort, the kick drums over here, the claps over here. So here's all the clap samples up here, here's all the kicks. And it's visually laid out, and you can generate kits, you can get different kick samples and whatnot, and you could quickly lay down even a sequence, for example. Browse a sequence, hit play. And let's say like, hey, I want to try a different kit. Maybe this isn't the one. Maybe I really like the kick, so I'll keep the kick. I'll hit new kit. Try again. I like the clap. We'll keep the clap. Try a different sequence. And let's say I want to generate some more fundamental things. I could just mute everything. And you do that by just right clicking. Let's say I just want some sick hi-hat clap snare kick. Just this bottom row. Because honestly, right, these are the first ones you're typically looking for. Hit new kit. Go back to sequence, try a new sequence out. Maybe we like this sequence. This is pulling from the browser, by the way. We could go to a variation on it. Use the AI, generate a new version. You could also just have random chaos. So there's a quick small demo of how fast using Atlas 2 is. As also a quick disclaimer, I did receive it for free for the purposes of review. And if you go to my site, there is all the little details you could want about it. It's $99 flat rate. And if you go to the written review, there's like a way more in-depth thing where I talk about like all kinds of stuff. A lot of pros, a lot of cons, which by the way, most of the cons are being addressed and being improved upon. The developer, I'm not sure if it's developers or developer, I don't know, but they were extremely responsive. And so, yeah, if you want like more detail, it's all here. All the little things, couple cool small things here. $99 is pretty phenomenal, especially when compared to the other, I think, biggest competitor, which would be EXO, because their light versions like 100, and I have it here, 119.95, or for the pro version 179, where Atlas 2 is just straight up, $99. So that's pretty cool. They have Linux on here in standalone. So I mean, standalone's cool. I don't do a lot of live stuff where this would be exactly useful, but the Linux thing, I know for some people that's like a big deal. So that's pretty cool. And was there something else on here that was commented? Nope, that was pretty much it. So yeah, you come on here, check that out if you want to. There'll be a link down in the description, of course. So okay, there's some demonstration. Let's go through and just really quick cover the basics of what goes on here. And if you want more details, you can check it out there. There's the Earth view. Or let's cover making a map. So you go to maps, and this is possibly the coolest thing. And the reason I would pick this up is the map browsing section is so friggin' cool. It's such a cool thing. So basically, you can create maps, and you can very quickly switch between different sets of sample packs. So it's like you're able to browse multiple packs at the same time visually, and using new kit, you can have it pick a bunch of samples at once. You can keep the ones you want by locking them, and then just keep going new kit till you find the one that you want. So versus browser, you'd have to look at each one individually. So this is like a way of like doing multiple things at the same time. So this is really cool. And let's say, let's create a map. Let's create a map. So we've got a map, new map. We'll call it, dank map. You can control the color of the map. Right now, this isn't, I wish you could set the color of samples, because as it stands, sometimes like tonal samples or like toms will have the same color as the snare because it works as a gradient. So as they move further away from the center, some of them will share the same color. So the color is a little less meaningful. It'd be cool if you're able to set color per like group. But anyways, yeah, you have your map. You're able to drag and drop folders onto here, or you can add them. And you can even choose to use only drum samples. Sometimes making maps can take quite a while, but let's go ahead. Let's just grab a, let's grab some samples here. We'll just grab a Black Octopus Leviathan pack so that you can see how this works. So go to open, and you literally just go boom, baby. And you can add as many as you want here. I have one that's got a huge amount of maps. It just takes a bit of time. You click build map, and we'll start building it. And you can choose to have it run in the background so you can keep doing things. You can see it working. And also, if something goes wrong, you can hit stop, and it'll stop, and you can try again. The bumpiness of the map generation, I wonder how it's generated, because sometimes they look crazy. They're just like all over the place. Other times they're kind of like this, where they're a bit more smooth. Anyways, it's going to generate that map for us. We can keep working while we're here. So I'm on the default map, so you can come through, pick out your samples and whatnot. In the browser, by the way, you can see all the packs you have installed. It does come with packs, and you also have all your maps. So if you have a ton of maps, this is my feedback for the map section. So map section, really cool. But as you can see, as I start to get more and more and more of these, it's going to become a bit overwhelming. It'd be cool if you could put like groups. You know how like on the iPad, you can put like multiple things together and name it, like we could have like the funk groups, and then we could have like the hip hop group, and then the hardcore group, and you could click on that to open up and pick your map from there. Would be really cool. Also, another thing that's kind of strange right now is if you select samples from a map, so we go like new kit, we pick samples from this map, we go to another map, it'll keep those samples there. Or this isn't a weird thing, this is a cool thing. But normally there's a little eyeball that lets you know where that sample is, but it disappears when the samples are from a different map. So if we click new kit, oh my goodness, and you click it and you go to it, it's like boom, there it is, and you have your kick. So on and so forth. So we're gonna unmute a few of these things. I wish there were mute groups. So like this other category, ride. I wish there was just like a little toggle thing right here. You could be like mute all the others, mute all the rides. Like that would be so handy. And since the colors sometimes match, you can't even use color to do that. So if we were able to set like other, I could make other some weird color. So I could just quickly go in and right click them all, get rid of them. You can have different sizes here. So you have like 4x4, 2x8. 2x8 and the 1x8, I'm not the biggest fan of because they make the sample controls. So like when you click on the samples, they bring up all the sample controls. They put them down here, and then you have to go through this toggle menu. Yeah, nah. I'm not the biggest fan of that. So I usually like to go 4x4. They do have bigger options. This was meant to mirror gear. So 4x4 is, I think, by far the most standard. And all of their MIDI packs, so like each pack has like the samples, but they also have like a sequence that goes with it. It's right here. You have your sequences. So we'll go to like from browser. So just pick a sequence from the packs in the browser. And there's over 200 of them when you get Atlas 2. So you get a whole bunch. And these are great as starting points because you get meaningful musical starting points. They're made with their default grid in mind. What I mean by that is this is called kick, right? And if I want to load another kit, I could click it. I get a new kick. And then here's like all the properties for the kick. You can even open it and change like the pitch variation of it. Every time you play, it'll change the pitch, or the velocity changes every time you play it. So if you want to add variation to your kit, you could set up choke groups in here, by the way. Fixed velocity lives here, all that stuff. So this is a kick group. When I click new kit, you get a kick there. But let's say I want something else there. Well, you can right click and it will load like what do we get? Well, this is also classified as a kick. I think I'd classify that closer to I guess it's a kick. I don't know, that's a tricky one. Anyways, let's do something obvious. So there's a hi-hat. And when I hit new kit, it's going to load hi-hats there. So you want to be aware of that. So you want it to match. If you're going to use the sequencer like this, you're going to want to have it match. All right, so let's say you picked out a sequence. You've got your kit going. Let's say that, I don't want this this other extra stuff up here, especially these other ones. Those are the ones they typically want to mute. Like, I'm like, bro, that's fire, man. Let's go. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to the sequencer, and there's a bunch of options that go into the written review on what I think should happen with this. I think this should be global and be visible. in other places. Because like this play and stop, if you hit play here and try to stop here, it won't work. Because you started playback here. So it'd be nice if this was global. And also this export button, pretty important button. And there's a link button. So if I have it linked and this isn't viewable, which when you open it up, it's not, and you hit play. You know, if you're trying to play your song and this constantly keeps starting, that's like annoying. So it'd be nice to have this, you know, like up here so that when I hit play here, you know, it plays and it doesn't keep triggering the sequence in here. Bunch of workflow stuff. But anyways, I digress. Wish this was just globally viewable. You go to export, and export, you can choose to have it export everything or only the stuff you have audible. And I wish there was a way to package the sample with this, because let me show you. So we'll go to the Midi, and we want to export stems. So that'll give us each individual Midi part, because maybe we want to, you know, do this in our own DAW. So we're going to hit render, and we can drag this, and let's pull up the channel rack. In FL, this is how you're going to do. So we're going to go drag, do, and we'll give it to these ones right here. So boom, 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 it loaded them all up. Now, if I want to drag and drop these on, I've muted all the ones I'm not using. But sometimes you have sequences where things are not muted and you have to like go and like match the name, and the names only appear when you hover over them. I wish there was a way to keep that like permanently on. Again, the color thing would be a nice solution. But you'd say, okay, we know this first one's the kick, so you can just drag and drop the kick. Snare. But my solution to this, because I think packaging the data, the audio data might be a bit tricky, would be see, are we even using this one? We're not even using this one. See, that's the problem with this. I wish when you hit export, it would also mute any pattern you're not using here. So you could visually just go boom, 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 and then, you know, you're on your way. It's probably the best next option to do this quickly. That wouldn't be like, oh, an overly complicated solution to implement. But anyways, there's a little bit on that. Let's check out our map here. And now if we play it, it'll play. Oh, that's not right. Oh, these are all coming in on C3. Let's see why that happened. Was there a... I have no idea why it came in on C3. What the heck, man? Okay, easy solution, though. We'll just pick it up 2 octaves. Go to each one. That's not, there's got to be a thing I don't understand then, because that is not normal. There you go. It might have something to do with the root note here. Like, I wonder if we move this, if that'll change it. Because it was down 2 octaves. So if we put this at C3, there's -2 octaves in the MIDI spec. So maybe it didn't account for that. So let's try this one more time. We'll go render. We'll drag these out. We'll put them down here. What are these notes? C5. If we change this again, we're just sleuthing around here. It's -C2. Export. Render. Now we're doing the MIDI. You could export audio stems too, and they even have a normalization option. That's like so crazy to me that they have that. So, okay, we're going to go... We're going to have so many channels. All right, we'll go down to one of these. Yeah, put it way down low. Okay, so yeah, make sure that your thing is offset correctly. So some DAWs take into account the -2 octaves for you. Some don't. FL doesn't. So you're going to need to pump it up 2 octaves above what you want. And that's just part of it. You can blame MIDI for that. I don't blame this on the plugin itself, because every DAW is going to do this different. So, you know, that's whatever. Fully resizable. Nice thing. Brief note about the resizability. Sometimes it makes these buttons unclickable. Loops, or you can lock samples. So like this kick. Pretty solid kick. So well, this is the first time I've ever had this issue. You gonna let me select that? Let's try resizing this. There we go. It's a bug. So if developer, if you're watching, now you know. Occasionally I've had experience where I've like resized it in such a way that it wouldn't let me lock or refresh certain cells. It's kind of a weird thing. It's something I've not been able to replicate consistently, because it's just one of those like super fickle things. So I don't know if it's worth your time even looking at it. From here, you're able to, let's say you want to take this out for external processing. There's 2 ways to do this. I could see uses for both. I'm super happy that they have both. you can just simply drag and drop, and it's now in your DAW. You can use it as you would any other sample, or you could go to the output and you can choose to send it out the outputs. Now, every DAW is going to handle this a bit different, but they have the option sequential, which will automatically route every pad out its own output. It's a beautiful thing. So if we come into the cog in FL and go to processing auto map outputs, it's going to put them all out on their own channel. So we're going to go ahead. I'm going to put this on like track 12. Why not? And you'll see they appear as offsets to track 12. This is just how FL Studio does multi-out. Okay, so from here, all right, let's go into the map view a little bit and talk about this. Let's go to our sick map that it's created. Was it this one? I don't even remember. We called it dank map. That's what it was. So here's our dank map. You can see how so many of these are blue. So the color kind of loses meaning. But let's generate a new kick from here. A new kit. My goodness. So you zoom in and out using the mouse wheel. Something you kind of expect. Very intuitive behavior. You can pan view using middle mouse. And if you want to swap samples out, and this will also change their type, so be careful. So if these are hi-hats, you know, if I right click over here, it just put a clap there. So no more hi-hat over there. So right now we're on Earth view, which gains and loses resolution as we zoom in and out. If I click and then like use my arrow keys, they allow you to browse, and I tend to like this. There is the very, I call it the fun mode, where you just hover over it and it plays whatever you're over. This tends to be just way too fast for me to like honestly make any kind of judgment on whether or not I like it or not. I usually use new kit anyways, but if I'm like in the neighborhood looking for stuff, I like to use the arrow keys. They're a little bit nice. They're a bit fickle at higher resolutions. This is constantly being worked on though. Like this is a difficult to solve programming challenge. You can right click on the background also to pan view, or if you click on a sample and right click, right, it's going to load a new one. So you could also hold Alt and right click. This guarantees that you'll always pan view, but just use the middle mouse button. Don't be a monster. Use the middle mouse button. If you don't have a mouse with the middle mouse button, do it. Your workflow will thank you. We also have a galaxy view. This is new. It always shows you all the samples. It looks really cool, like a bunch of little islands or some sort of country sometimes, especially on bigger maps like Crazy Big and iMap. So this map exists purely for the sake of being big. So if I click on it, it's all here. Look at that. It's very smooth, by the way. Like, wow, it handles it really nicely. I like Earth View for stuff like this because Galaxy View, right, is just a little overwhelming sometimes, but it does look really cool. I don't know. I don't have a huge preference over either one. And they this was something new in version 2 that they did was if you go to settings, they've got a fast UI load. So they spent a lot of time optimizing it so that when you want to go through different maps, you can like, boom, look at this map. Well, that was the same map. Boom, look at that map. You know, boom, look at this map's empty. I haven't generated it. Let's go to another map. Leviathans, boom, there it is. So very, very, very fast. Big fan of that. And if we go into settings, there's a couple other things that are really cool. First, custom keyboard shortcuts. It's not a normal thing to see in a plugin. That is so cool. They're thinking of workflow big time. Right now, looking at this just reminded me. I don't know of a way. Maybe it's possible. There's no manual for this yet. And I'm waiting for one because it'd be cool to have one. But the developer also said so few people read the previous manual that he wasn't sure if he wanted to do one for this one. But right now there's not like an official video by them. And the tool, they did go down the tooltip route. Like if you hover over stuff, it says what it does. But it's not, I don't feel like this is extensive enough. And I feel like there should be a toggle option to turn these on and off. Because this real estate could be used for like this this stuff, which would be really handy. So it'd be cool. I don't know. I feel like it needs to be more extensive. There could be a little bit more written support, although I do know it's a pain to make, and I know that not very many people look at it. So I really understand where he's coming from. Or she. I don't know. So anyways, come back to the settings here. Yeah, custom keyboard shortcuts, freaking wild. And there is no way currently that I know of, maybe there's a way, to trigger multiple sequences. So let's say you want to do everything in here. Well, if you click new sequence, you can't you can't. You can have it do one sequence, but that's like it. You can't have like 5 sequences open and then trigger them via Midi to tell it which one to use. Maybe in the future. That's really cool. There's also no pitch control right now, so you can't program like melodic stuff. Maybe in the future. That'd be really cool. I did email them, and there's a lot of promising hope for the future. So I am not going to be too harsh on this front because this is still extremely new. They just came out with this. So I'd be very excited about where this is going and some of the plans they have. One idea I even threw them was I'm like, yo, this would be really crazy. If you had a different dot for every sample. So there'd be like 16 dots on here, and you could automate them X, Y position on the grid. So it'd be a controllable way to control the madness that is moving around. I was like, if you do that, that'd be insane. That'd be so much fun to fiddle with. Like, think of the crazy things you could do with that. So, very, very cool. I also feel like more stuff should just be automatable. It would be more useful. And in the sequencer, there's a shuffle control that's global, but it'd be cool to have it like per sample. But you know, these are all just thoughts on things that I'm like, oh, I wish kind of stuff. But the big point is browsing it and very quickly finding things. Coming back here, so custom keyboard shortcuts, very cool. One other thing in here that's very cool is the auto gain. Where are you? You're in here, I know it. There's, auto set drum sample gain. And this is checked by default so that when you pick samples, if you come in here and look at the gain, it'll adjust them so they're all of a similar gain. That is so beautiful. This is so nice. It makes having multiple packs manageable. One sample is not overly loud versus another one. And you can, if you want to change it, you can just, change it. Just whatever. The exporting you've seen is extremely simple. It's literally just drag and drop. And if you want to, you can do it through menus and stuff. But that's like, that's lame. Not as cool. And that's Atlas in a nutshell. There's more here. I guess I should mention this too, because you might accidentally do this. So say you're picking your samples out. You're like, yeah, I got my samples. And you lock some samples. You're like, dope. These are pristine. You're gonna win me some awards, these samples are. And you decide to go over to the browser and you're gonna use these options. So they have these random options to generate different parts. Very, very cool. One of them is to generate random kits. And you think you've locked these so they're not going to change. Because when you click new kit, that's how it works. If you click this, not so, man. It is gonzo. It's gone. And also, these appear to work randomly across all your kits. All of them. So, like, this is like the wild button. Like, you want to get crazy? You click this one. And, you're going to get a random display of stuff from all over the place. So that's why the behavior is what it is, though. Just be aware of that. That these are going to look at the whole shebang of your browser, where these ones are just going to look at your map specific. Notice the eyeball goes away when I do that. There's no eyeball up here to view where the sample went. Anyways, you saw a little bit of a demo at the beginning of working with it. There's some of the functionality. Would I recommend this plugin? Like, is it fire? Heck yeah, dude. I would totally recommend this. Totally resizable. I think this was made in Juice. Like, whenever you see this, like, it screams Juice. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. The developer could tell me, I guess. Just a wild guess. But yeah, I'd 100% recommend this because you're able to, this map thing is so friggin' cool. Being able to quickly go between sample packs and have packs that stick to themes, like your hip hop packs or whatever, that's so handy. You could have a whole map just of like kicks and a whole one of snares if you want. The sorting of them that way is really handy. The generation, I really like. There's a lot of room for improvement. So on the site, you'll see there's a workflow score, and I scored it very highly. I gave it an 8.5. The only reason it's not like a 10 or whatever is because of all those things I'm mentioning where I'm like, this is already very good where it's at, and it has got room to grow, man. I mean, I think this plugins of this nature, because there's a few out there now, or at least there's one other big one that comes to mind, XO. I mean, there's a lot. I think that the first one to figure out how to deal with loops and auto chop loops and give you loop sampling control is also going to be huge. I feel like that one's also just going to smash doors down in terms of usability, because then you could start tossing things like construction kits into this. I mean, there's just a lot of options. There's so many places you go, so much you could expand on. So I just can't give it a perfect score right now. There's just too much unexplored stuff. For what it is fantastic. I think it'll find place in any workflow. If you work with sample packs, I feel like you have to have a weapon like this in your arsenal. It's just too valuable to not have. I still think there is merit in browsing via folders. If you have a good folder structure like I do, I have like my packs that are like unsorted, but I have sorted stuff too. And this is still very valuable as a way to browse things. And I still love to do it that way, especially if I know like what I'm looking for. This is a way to get jamming real quick if you need some inspiration real quick. And it can replace the file browsing way entirely. It's just up to you. Some things I hope to see is possibly have this global. I think that will honestly be a big change to the user experience. And I mean, that's the big one, because I'd like to have the slave off or on. I'm not even sure if I want it on or off by default. Probably off by default. I'd like the slave input to just be visible so that when I'm done fiddling in Atlas, having it on by default, I think makes sense. But I'd like to be able to quickly toggle it off so that I can start working in the DAW. And also another thing that'd be really nice is if the export MIDI option wasn't just here, if you could drag and drop the MIDI just by clicking and dragging from the row. And also, okay, but I have a whole bunch of things that I'm thinking. And when you click on this, I wish there was a button to preview the sample, like right here, like maybe above mute. It highlights the sample for you, but this just ain't good enough for me. I want it right here. That way I know exactly what I'm fiddling with without having to come over here and like look for the highlighted thing. I wish there was a toggle to keep the text on the screen so that I knew what I was seeing. The mute groups was something I already mentioned. I mean, I've had a ton of like workflow thoughts as I've worked more. I wish there were more snap settings. We didn't even go into making a sequence. If we clear the sequence, you've got like this ability to mirror edit, and that's pretty cool. And if you go to different step sizes, you can like quickly write in like little hi-hat fills. You play this. Like that was just random clicking and it already sounds pretty good. Like that's kind of scary how efficient that is. But what we have here too is if you change grid size and you click at the previous size, in order to reset it, by the way, you have to bring them all the way down to 0. And then you can do the new one. Just so if you were wondering about that. Maybe you were, I don't know. But I wish there were more step sizes, bigger step sizes, like 8, like whole notes and quarter notes and stuff. So right now it stays to 16ths, which it kind of makes sense, honestly. This also isn't scalable, but you're limited to the amount of things you can see anyway. So if you go to like a higher kit thing and generate a new kit for like a launch pad or whatever, you're not going to get every single one of these channels here. Which honestly, I don't think is that big a deal. This would be like an overwhelming number of things. And then this would be like a whole, other thing. I think where they picked to balance it is a really well-picked decision. Yeah, I don't know. The zooming and navigation, I have so many thoughts about this, but I'm excited to see where this goes and what happens with it. And potentially, I'd love to see more things automatable, like the variation. I'd love to be able to automate these values. I'd love to be able to automate these. I'd love an ADSR control that I could automate here. The choke groups are fine. I don't really want to automate those, but I just wish that like more of these things were automatable because they just open up doors down the line. And even if modulation sources, just tossing that out there. If you add like envelopes and LFOs and more of that stuff in here that you could like dynamically hook up to stuff, that'd be like really wild. But then this is like, is it a browsing plugin, or now are we looking at like a groove generation engine, which I think they are going sort of the groove route, but there's a bunch of thoughts. Again, highly recommend. Fantastic plugin. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and have a blessed day.